I don't know. I was about to say he seems like a nice guy, but I remember vaguely this one interview I saw of him on YouTube where he was talking about, I don't think it was Drake necessarily, but there was this other conventionally handsome, conventionally ladies' man type of male co star that he was talking about. It probably wasn't Drake and Josh. I think he was referring to one of his more recent projects, but he just kept reiterating over and over again how somebody like him, talking about himself, he doesn't see himself as a naturally handsome or charismatic guy. Like, I guess he's never, I mean, you guys know back in Drake and Josh, he was the overweight, fat, funny kid, right? That was his whole shtick on the show, which I understand, like, that must be hard and traumatizing in its own way, especially as a kid, to have to deal with that image being foisted upon you and to have people see you that way for so long. It's hard to break out of that shell, and it's hard to, I guess, reconcile the fact that maybe, yeah, like in contrast with his co-star Drake, I guess their experience must have been a lot different. I feel like with Drake, there were probably a lot of groupies throwing themselves at him, and then Josh is over here like, why didn't I get dealt that hand of cards, But I caught kind of a red flag when I heard him mention just one too many times for my liking how certain guys in the industry don't have to try hard, right? Like, certain people get to be handsome and hot, be good at everything that they try the first time, good speaker, good communicator, play this sport and that sport. Certain people have it all, but then me, Josh, I have to work so hard to compensate, or I'm a nice guy. It was giving very nice guy vibes in the red flaggy type of way, if that makes sense. I didn't like it because I felt like, okay, I understand you had a certain image in your childhood, but that's in the past now, right? You've since proven your talent as an actor in many, many subsequent films that have nothing to do with Nickelodeon. I mean, Josh has been on the scene forever. He's 37 now, right? He hasn't been that fat kid for a while. If he were just to present himself in all these new situations, like if he were to just decide for himself to step into that new identity of, yeah, I am attractive, I am respected, I am a talented actor in my own right, I do have the respect of my peers and of women or whoever, then nobody would question it if he would just decide to show up like that for himself from now on, except he chooses not to. He chooses instead to harp on how he's never had it easy when compared with other more conventionally attractive guys. But the thing is, as I was watching that interview, I just felt like it was so crazy because if he didn't talk about himself like that, or if he didn't talk about how much there was a contrast or perceived contrast between the way that he experiences life versus those other actors that he views as being more attractive and therefore more effortless in their getting adoration from the public than him, if he didn't go out of his way to mention that so many times, I would not have even noticed. You know what I'm saying? And I don't like that he didn't support Jeanette McCurdy either when she came out with her allegations against Dan Schneider, the producer over at Nickelodeon during that era, who is facing a lot of SA charges right now, rightfully so. I hope he gets his justice served to him. But I think Josh and Ariana Grande, there was a handful of people that kind of came out. I don't think they were necessarily hard defending Dan Schneider, but they basically said, well, he didn't do anything wrong to me. He was always nice to me. That really rubbed me the wrong way as well. So even more than, that stuff about him having a chip on his shoulder, about not being viewed as the popular, handsome, successful guy when he was younger, that is not as important as his dismissal, I feel like, of Jeanette McCurdy's claims, like his lack of support for her. He didn't have to outright come out and say that I support her, she's telling the truth, but he could have just kept his mouth shut, right? I just felt like it was very disrespectful of him to come out and say in like this very passive aggressive way that, oh, well, Dan Schneider never did anything inappropriate towards me. He was always nice to me. Therefore, I don't know why anyone would be speaking out badly about him. So therefore, she's probably lying. Like, that was his intent, I believe, in coming out with that type of a statement towards about Dan Schneider. And I didn't like it. Like, not only is that rude and disrespectful, and not only is it an obvious reaction to Jeanette McCurdy's serious allegations against Dan Schneider, but it's also such a pussy way to insert yourself in the conversation, if that makes sense. Like, just say that you support Dan. You know what I mean? If you're going to say anything, just stand on business and say it with your whole chest that I don't believe Jeanette and I support Dan. I would respect him more if he came out and said that. Like, I still would cancel him completely, but at least I would respect him for standing on business and just admitting that, yeah, this is my MO, instead of that weaselly little roundabout way of, oh, well, but Dan didn't do anything to me, so I can't imagine what would prompt Jeanette to say something like that in her autobiography. Like, boy, get the F out of here, okay? I don't know how we ended on this Nickelodeon drama after an Oppenheimer review, but here we are.